I love this space so much. Can't get over it. It is amazing in here. I love it. I'm glad I was able to come and have a presentation with you guys. It's a great feeling to be here. There is a lot of history within Lethbridge area. And so, one second, I'm going to check in with her. Did you get the thing? Okay, good. Awesome. Yeah, no worries. Just making sure. So I am a multidisciplinary artist. What that really means is I dip my creative toes into all sorts of different things. I'm a visual artist. I do lots of painting, drawing, mural work, as well as I'm just finishing up a tree carving in High River in their George Lane Park there. Big 100-year-old cottonwood. It's about this size around, about 10 feet tall. So it's quite large. And I just finished a mural for my daughter's school at Spitzy School. And I work currently for Calgary Arts Development, who does all the public art for the city of Calgary. So I'm a public art lead. I've worked in public art since graduating ACAD, which is now AU Arts. Never thought I would be in public art, but I like to talk at people. So I think that's probably part of it. And so for the past 5 years, I've been working as a way to reconnect myself with my heritage and my culture, and sort of bridge the gap personally between, my personal knowledge of history and, living within my traditional territory. We've been here for at least 5,000 years, if not longer. And so when I was younger, it didn't mean so much to me. I grew up in Calgary. I spoke English. I knew there was lots of history, but then as I got older, it really became apparent, especially as I talked to my grandparents, who were like, "No, this is where we started. This is where our people started, and what does that mean?" And so I don't speak my language traditionally, and I didn't get raised in that sort of atmosphere. Obviously, I talk to my family members and stuff, but it's different than being immersed in my culture. So I really, as a visual person, I really gravitated to beadwork and leather work and things of that sort. And so that was always a comfortable place to be for learning my culture. And so I wanted to grow from there. And 5 years ago, I was working at the Calgary Public Library and Indigenous placemaking. So I had a good. You can just press play and just cycle through if you want.
I just don't know how to make it full screen.
Oh, you just go to slideshow. Yeah. And I don't know if it will cycle through automatically. If it doesn't cycle through in the next. Was that you or was that it?
That was me.
Okay. Okay.
Does anybody need him to use a mic? Because we have one right there.
Yeah, I can use the mic if you need to. I've been told I'm loud.
Ryan, do you need him too?
No, I have him.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Okay.
So just so you know, Ryan is here tonight, and he's from Rogers TV, and
Hello.
he is filming. So, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries.
Wait, would you like me to dim the lights a little bit?
Can everyone see it? Yeah, we're probably good.
All right.
Do you want to say anything before I go any further?
No, you've said lots.
Okay.
You just
All right.
keep going.
All right.
Everybody knows where you belong.
Okay, awesome. And so when I was working at the Calgary Public Library, it gave me a great opportunity to have resources. And so I took full advantage of that, and I was facilitating lots of Indigenous artists and public art stuff. So it was very easy for me to start to pair those things together. And so I talked to lots of elders in the Elders Guidance Circle, and found out I had family all over the place, lots of last names in Blackfoot country. I'm directly related to and related to famous people from around here. Red Crow's He signed Treaty 7. He also was born a couple miles from here and was quite famous around here, and he's a direct family member of mine. Same with Pinaquim, one of the other famous chiefs from 150 years ago. Jared Tailfeathers is my great uncle. So yeah, I found out I had all sorts of really great connections down here, and so I wanted to really connect that and start to learn my language a little bit more, and connect my love of art and culture to my practice, which was mostly just comic books and stuff like that, and murals and painting and stuff. And that didn't really have anything to do with my cultural background. And so I wanted to, like I said, marry some of that together, and that turned into this sort of idea to make contemporary work based on traditional methods of making. And so at first it was really to go through the proper cultural protocols to go through a workshop to do this, and to give tobacco offerings, learn those protocols and stuff, and then I quickly found out it wasn't just because it's a holistic culture. If I wanted to learn one thing, it always connects to another thing. Creation stories, history, specific places, because this isn't, for Christian religions. The genesis of Christian religions is across the ocean, right? It's Jerusalem, all those places over there where that's where the history starts. And so unless you live there, you can't really go to those spots if you live here, and you can't really connect to those things. But for me, these are our creation stories are connected to specific spots within a 2-hour drive from my house. And so that was quite, revealing to me. And so I learned cultural protocols, and I went through the protocol to, be able to build my own drums, also build my own rattles, and then I learned further protocols and rules and things like that. So I can I can make my own drums, but I actually can't teach you guys to make the drum, even though technically I could do that, but the protocols doesn't let me. So I started learning stuff like that, and then how these processes work, the spirituality of these things, and the locations of stuff. So all these photos here are a collection of different places in the territory that have some sort of either creation story to it, or has some sort of method of art making. And so first I went to places that were well known. Head Smashin's not too far from here. I went to Writing on Stone, amazing place. I went to Banff Corridor, also an amazing place, and Blackfoot Crossing, a couple hours north, pretty much directly north of us here. And then after I started finding out that there was lots of evidence that we live here, not driving by stuff, you don't usually see like a big castle like you do in Europe or something like that, but here it's a little bit more intimate. So so I started asking more questions, what other places are important, and started reading creation stories, and then found out while I was reading creation stories, like I know what they're describing in this story. I've been to this place before, and specifically like here, Lethbridge is full of Blackfoot history. It's full of Cree history. It's full of all sorts of history, and there's paintings, rock paintings within the city limits, and stuff that people don't know about, and buffalo jumps, and things like that. And once you start finding those places, and you start finding art and teepee rings and wheels and stuff like that. So Grotto Canyon. Dang, I wish this was just rolling. It'd be a lot easier to talk at it.
I can just say next.
Oh, I also don't want you to just stand there. Fuck it. So Grotto Canyon, it's on Highway 1A from Calgary. It's pretty much right outside of Canmore. Through my research, I found out that all of the old highways, Highway 1, Highway 1A, Highway 3, Highway 2, existed for thousands of years before they were paved. All that happened was the railway came in pretty much directly across those trails, and then the roads were paved, and then along those places, the permanent settlements that became towns and cities were already important places to us. Part of the reason why it didn't take that long for settlement to happen was because they were already there. All the resources, all these things were already there. Oh,
It looks like you might be able to do it.
that would be awesome. Okay, cool. So, Grotto Canyon is one of those places. And you see that there's red ochre paint here. There's a canoe there. And Highway 1A, which is Crowchild Trail in Calgary. It pretty much comes from downtown out to the mountains. It's the north side of the Bow River. There are about 6 different paint sites along that highway. And this is one of them. This is probably like the third one up. And Grotto Canyon is easily accessible. It's just in Canmore area. And there are hundreds of paintings. There's a little guy up there, a couple other little guys, and all these are collections of stories from different traders in the area. Banff and Canmore area has been a trade network area for a very long time. And so anytime that, a different, like Hopi, who are, 1,000 miles away from us directly south, and other places would come to trade with us here, we would have some sort of ceremony, we'd trade something, and lots of times they would have paintings like this. And so some of these are harder to see, but you can see all the residue paint and stuff. That one's pretty easy to see. So that's a buffalo headdress, so it's the horns. This is Napi, one of our creator figures, our main character of our story usually. And so places like this, you start to see the same figures at different places, and you see different rock effigies that are sort of the same, and you start seeing stuff like this, especially big circles. If you've ever been to writing on stone, you'll see that sort of figure a lot. And this is a shield warrior. So before horses were reintroduced, we were on foot, and so the sort of romanticized paintings you see now are of us on horses, and we usually have a spear or a gun or something, and then a small shield. But before that, it was like a big 6x6 shield, and we'd be on foot. And so if you see one of these, that means it's quite old. They're usually about 1,500 years, and most of the time you see a little head there, you see a little club on this side, a little club on this side, and sometimes you'll see feet. And traditionally, you would have seen some sort of spirit figure painted on that side. And so you'd see stuff like that throughout. This is a buffalo. You can see this is the hump, and that's the horns there, and this is the leg. They sort of get hard to see, but here's a Napi figure again. It's the same type of figure as this one. So these are fairly well known in Grotto Canyon, but if you walk further up the canyon, you see these really cool waterfalls. And so this fall is right here in this photo. And right here, there's a painting that I didn't think anyone else had ever taken a photo of before, and that's this one. So this is ceremony going on. It's always in a circle, and you can see there's a sun here, and then this represents where they were in the canyon. Yeah.
Do you mind questions during?
Yeah, that's fine.
Like some of the rock faces also look like they're etched. Is that part of the rock face, or is that part of?
You can always tell by where the marking is. Throughout time, obviously, it gets harder to tell. Sandstone's really easy to tell. You can always tell, like, oh, this is a weird mark. This isn't natural. But yeah, you'll see stuff like that in here. But obviously, the painting holds better, especially red paint. Red is like the most common paint you'll find in any of these paintings. And it's not just because we only use red. It was because apparently that one adheres to rock better and it stays longer. See, so there's the sun. So this is one of the only ones I've seen that's out in the open that uses a different color than red. So at some point, this is probably quite colorful. See stuff like that. So this is another buffalo. This one's a little bit more clear. Yeah, see, there's paintings all over this one wall. This is what, if you see any photos of it on the internet or anything like that, that's the one you'll get to see most often. And then there's the belly buttes. If you live down here, you've probably driven by them on the other side of the highway there. So they got their name because Napi, in one of the creation stories, got his guts pulled out. So they literally mean belly as in guts, because they look kind of like that, red and lined. And it was also used as a buffalo jump. That's part of the reason why we have our Sundance and stuff there. One of our holy places. Oh, you see me there? My dog. The Belly River, which is also just around the corner here. Also gets its name for the same reason, the guts. This is right in Standoff. These spots I'm sure you're a little bit more familiar with. You guys live down here. I want to get to a little bit further here. So if you go down to Waterton, this is on that highway there, Chief Mountain. This is probably one of the most well-recognized Blackfoot places that are holy. People, and I always tell them it's actually in Montana, always like, oh wow, you can see that from like Staveley, which you can see it really far away. And so, I don't know if you go on the Montana side, it's actually a really skinny mountain. It looks big and round here, but it's actually really skinny. And so, thunder, the being thunder, Gitsikum, lives there. So if you hear about the thunder pipe, which is a quite significant pipe that we use culturally, that's where it originates, at the foot of this mountain. And so that creation story is directly tied to that mountain. And apparently this is the oldest mountain, or one of the oldest mountains in all of the Rocky Mountains. It's part of the reason why it's so unique and weird looking, because it's had longer to take a weird shape. And it's very singular. It looks like it's part of that mountain range, but it's actually sitting all by itself. So it has lots of cultural information, and then just down here, just behind this little hill, there's Police Outpost Lake, which is a really important cultural site. It's probably where that thunder pipe actually was. They were probably at a camp there. And so the thunder pipe only comes out when the first thunder of the season, that's when the new season actually starts. It would be a celebratory time, sort of like a holiday. I like this one particularly. And then writing on stone. It's so I mentioned Jerusalem earlier. It's Holy Land, as they say. To us, this is our holiest spot. It's our Mecca. It's our Rome. It's our holy spot. And so I have a little bit of a love-hate when I go there, because we're not, we wouldn't be allowed to camp outside Rome and deface it, but people are allowed to camp here, and people deface it all the time. And so got a little bit of an issue with that. But you can visit there. It's very beautiful. It's very unique. And there are still pictographs and petroglyphs being found today. One of the elders I know who works there all the time says every summer they find a new one that hasn't been documented before. And it's been a park for a long time. So it's very significant. Another significant thing is this is the north side of the river here, Milk River, as most of the carvings are on the north side because the sun touches the north side and not the south side so much. But you'll see them also on a spot like this on the south side because the sun raises in the east, and it would touch it there first too. And then in the back here you see the Sweetgrass Hills. another really important place. And that's just barely on the other side of the Montana border. There's 3 big buttes there. One of them has a really significant cave with rock paintings, and there are buried relics and like holy things there. I'm not actually supposed to go in there as a community member, but it is very significant. And so has anyone ever been to Writing on Stone? Yeah, it's awesome. You can spend all day there. You spend days and days there looking for stuff. So traditionally we wouldn't camp there for very long. It's a place where you go on a holy visit or a holy quest, because there's spirits there. There's lots of energy there. You go there to learn, and if it's significant enough, to add your marks. Not just anyone can do it. And if you stay longer than a week, you'd essentially be asking for a haunting. So lots of really cool, big, significant buttes there. Every single time I've been there, I've seen a new glyph and a new painting. This spot is one of the only ones that's still open to the public. This is also the last glyph that was made there, which is it was a war story, and so there's guns and stuff going on. And so most of the glyphs are right along the bottom of the cliff area there. You can see a camp. These are teepees. So this is actually a separate story from these ones. So when we tell our stories, they're usually clumps. They're not like a linear left to right, right to left. So you see stuff like that, and you see this one's very clearly a gun. And these are bullets. And then this here is a literal bullet hole. When the Northwest Mounted Police came here and they saw lots of our carvings and paintings and stuff, they didn't really care, so they would use them as target practice. So a lot of these places you'll see stuff like that, bullet holes. And then you'll also see these are very current. These are within the last 40, 50 years that somebody's gone there. That's why they put a fence around it. And same with these. These are like sharpening for like tools and stuff. See lots of them like this. We actually saw 2 snakes that day. I had my very fresh puppy. We had just gotten her like not even a month, and we brought her with us, and she was sniffing this hole, and we heard a Oop. And then we weren't looking behind us because we were looking at the hole, and then we turned around and saw this snake, and I just had my camera with me, so it ran. So we're lucky it's not super blurry. And then this is a very recognizable mountain range. Here's the Chief Mountain. This would be the Chief Mountain Pass area when you're crossing the border. This is Waterton. This is Red Rock Canyon. And then over here would be like Beauvais Lake and stuff. Begunny. So there's a couple of big buffalo jumps there. And you can see right here. See really far in the distance. That's head smashed in. So the Porcupine Hills start pretty much right where I live in High River, and it goes right pretty much to Fort Macleod area. So it's about 100 kilometers, and there's hundreds of buffalo jumps in there. It's one of the most concentrated buffalo jump places in the world. It's not just head smashed in, but there's loads of them. There's also lots on public land. You can go in there and check them out. I found different paintings. I went to the only sort of canyon in there where it looks like there's probably paintings in there too. Through the research, I got really good at eyeballing stuff and being like, I think that might be a spot, and then come back later and find something, and then I have to bring an elder by to be like, hey, I think I found something. And then you'll see lots of these big glacial erratics around. They all start to look like buffalo. You can see the hump here. That's Beauvais Lake, another significant spot. This is Waterton, and the Beaver Bundle area. The Beaver Bundle is a really important holy thing. Oh, it's my wife. Cameron Falls. So the hill I'm on right now, as I'm looking to Red Rock Canyon, is where the Beaver Bundle originated. But I'm sure all of you have been over here, Waterton. Yeah, here's some of those buffalo jumps, head smashed in. You can see from head smashed in, it looks like it was a little bit smoky that day. Here's the actual jump. And when they were in full use, all these jumps would have been a lot more sheer. So over the last 150 years, all the settlement of rain and rock has made it sort of more bowed looking at the bottom. Little marmot. Has anyone been to Head Smash In? I bet it's pretty close, yeah. Oh. What about the Okotoks Erratic? Anyone have been up there? So in High River, one of the reasons why I moved there was because of my research. We really liked the house and the neighborhood and stuff, but like the real selling point for me was because it's called McLeod Trail through town, is the original highway to, and it connects you to the Porcupine Hills, to Old Woman's Buffalo Jump, to where the Little Bow River and the Highwood River link up right in the middle of town. And then you follow that, and it'll take you directly to Okotoks. And then you keep following that, it takes you to the Sheep River Pass, which means it's the old trail. And so this, a lot of people don't know, is actually is a art gallery. So you'll see there's actually paintings under here, and under here. Lots of these overhangs. This is paint right here. Lots of people don't know. And there's a couple of handprints up there. There's also a painting under this and under there. There's a painting right there. See a little bit. You can tell the difference between the paintings and some of the natural rock. And again, most of the paintings are on the south side because that's where the sun is. And again, you can see that these glacial erratics start to look like buffalo lying down. I don't know what it is, but as they change their coat every season, they rub off on them and take all that stuff off. And then they start to look like that. This is one of the only rocks in there that isn't part of that same rock train. This is a different type of rock. And you can see that there's sharpening marks on top here. So as you'd have like a war camp there, and you'd stay and do ceremony. Somebody would paint something, and then you would sit at this rock together, because you can tell it. There's rocks placed around that you can sit around. So this is like a meeting spot, even at the erratic. And this whole thing, any sort of little cave like this at the erratic, is all painted. This is all paint. All this stuff here. And some remnants of stuff. Get a couple of better shots. So you can see that one's pretty good. And so through my research, I started finding a bunch of this stuff, and not just the ones that were already known, but I started finding stuff that people didn't know before. And so, like I said, it grew from what my original intent was, just to make some stuff based on traditional methods of making. And then it grew to me like being very good at finding these spots and like verified with elders and like being able to eyeball from far away. And like 6 months later, I'll come back and I think there's something at that spot over there. I don't know why. And then I go in there and I find something. And so lots of stuff like that started popping up, and I found out that we had things, art and stuff like that all over the territory. One of the closest ones here is right beside the university on the other side there. There's these two big glacial erratics overlooking the hill, the valley there, and they used to be one rock, and you can see that they've split. And the one that's a little bit closer to the edge has a painting of a badger on it. and I never thought anyone had taken photos of it. I talked to elders, they don't have any record of it so far, so it means it's a new one or newly found. See this couple of different images there. And Blackfoot Crossing, has anyone been there? Yeah, really significant. It's called Blackfoot Crossing because traditionally we call it a ridge underwater. So it's a spot where there's a big, nice crossing spot. And so this is where Treaty 7 was signed. Really significant spot. Bunch of buffalo jumps nearby. Lots of rock cairns, things like that. Lots of history here. If you haven't been there, you should check it out. See, there's a buffalo jump right there. And then this is Drumheller area. Also used as a buffalo jump. What about Cochrane? Does anyone ever go to Cochrane? Cochrane has 2 separate paint sites. So it's got a couple of buffalo jumps right within town. And when I see lots of writing of history of towns, they almost never talk about that. It's almost always the pioneer braved their way across for the first time anyone had ever been here. And Cochrane is a very blatant, that's false information. This was a really important area. Highway 22 is one of the old trails, Highway 1A. It's like right on a crossroads, and the Jumping Pound Creek gets its name because there's a bunch of jumps and pounds there. There's a cave there just outside of a neighborhood that has about 11 different paintings there. There's black paint, yellow paint, red paint. A really awesome spot. And also, right outside of their ranch house, so the spot where I've taken a photo of the ranch house, there's a painting right behind me. When I went looking for it, because I knew it was there, I heard about it, I went and I asked them, hey, do you guys know where this painting is? Nobody knew what I was talking about. That's the museum. Like, I had no idea what I was talking about. It was really irritating. And I went in there like, really? Come on, guys. And so I went looking, and my car's like just out of shot here. And then I was like, there's a cliff there. Maybe I'll just go look at this cliff. And there's a little overhang, and there's a shield warrior. It's underneath there. He's got a club. This is the end of a spear. His head and his legs are even there. And then there's a handprint. And there's a glyph that's been painted. And nobody knew about this. It was crazy to me. It's like right there. It's like 10 feet outside of the parking lot. And that 12-mile coulee all along the Bow River. There's a coyote. It's chasing me and my dog. Got like 1,500 years of history. There's at least a couple of little cairns in there. And it takes you right to the Bow River, and you can see that COP. There's a buffalo jump right beside COP. Old Banff Coach Road, Bow Trail. Those are the original trails. All that happened was they were paved. Same with Lethbridge. All the old trails here they were already there. So like the crossing where the big bridge is where Indian Battle Park is. There's a reason why that bridge was put there, because that is the crossing, the original crossing. And so like Indian Battle Park is very significant. You live within one of the most significant events in the latter part of Blackfoot culture. So the last time that we fought as a group for our territory before the signing of the treaty, and that had nothing to do with any settlers. It was literally just between us and a different indigenous group. And so when I went on my research, I had a grant funding to do my research and do all this stuff. I initially went to these important places, and then I ran out of money because I made some stuff, but I had got the itch to start looking for stuff. Like, there's stuff all over the place. I got to start looking more. And so I chose places that were within like 2-hour drive of my house. So I started in Calgary and found out there's loads of stuff in Calgary too. There's at least 3 different painting spots. There's 12-mile coulee. There's stuff in there. This is Edworthy Park, and you can tell that this used to be a quarry. So all the old buildings in Calgary, but that also used to be a buffalo jump. And there used to be paintings here. Bow River, and then this is Beaumont Cliffs, buffalo jump. This is Silver Springs. It was the first neighborhood I lived in when I was a kid. I had no idea how significant it was, but the springs themselves are really significant. And all these coulees is where you hide for the winter, because there's wood there, there's old berries and stuff there, and they don't freeze in the winter. So there's also buffalo jump really close there. This is Nose Hill. There's all sorts of stuff. There's rock circles. You can see one right here. This is part of one. Here. And this is Deerfoot, the famous runner who got the road named after him. He's buried in an unmarked grave on top of Nose Hill, and this is where that grave is. There's another buffalo rubstone. There's another one right there. Again, it looks like a buffalo laying down. This one's a bunch of them here. So like, there's stuff like that all over the place. The best place to look are dog parks, because they haven't been moved around by builders or anything. So if you want to look for any sort of history that's still there, anything like that, you look at dog parks. This is Panorama Hills. This is sort of northeast Calgary. There's houses right here, just out of shot. This is Nose Creek. It goes right by Nose Hill. Another big buffalo jump. This is the first spot I went to that had painting remnants that weren't documented. I called archaeologists, like, we didn't know about this. It was really cool. And then there's Split Rock, another big glacial erratic. This used to be painted on the inside here, and then it was defaced by spray painters, so they cleaned the whole thing. So all the original paintings are gone now. The Bear's Paw Dam. So the dam and most other dams are put in spots in like natural river widenings. All the spots are almost always significant. So the Bear's Paw Dam is just outside of town. There's a nice long trail, about 1.5 kilometers, takes you just on the other side of that dam, and there's a painting there on a little buffalo jump. This is Banff. This was my old neighborhood. Again, it was because I got my dog, took my dog to the park, and then I found stuff immediately, and it was always on high hills. And all these hills see the other hills where there's other spots, which means they're communication spots too. So we put markers there because we could see other spots. So once you start seeing stuff like this, and it starts to broaden what you see on the land. And it's all not just spiritual. Lots of times people look at Indigenous cultures as just being spiritual, which is true, but really it's a real world thing. We found these places that are significant. They're also usually really beautiful spots, but also resources. And then we learned something at that place and they became significant to us and then became spiritual. So all these spots are really important as resources. Elk Island, anyone been there? It's by Edmonton, the top of our territory. It is really big lake there, beautiful, beautiful spot, lots of Saskatoons, and they're one of the only places traditionally, or in the last several years, that have wild bison living there. The ones that are living on the Montana side actually originally came from here. This is Big Hill Springs, just outside of Cochrane, another spot where there's springs there. It's also a really beautiful spot. So this is a traditionally important spot. And you also see there's buffalo jumps nearby there. And so this is my basement, or was my basement. And so this is right after I made this drum. And you can see this is the medicine wheel. We actually, Blackfoot call the medicine wheel the wheel of life. So medicine wheel isn't our term. Okay, so the instruments. So I went through all these things, a whole bunch of learning, went through workshops, and then the goal was to build 2 new instrument designs, because I make musical instruments anyway before I did this stuff, and then to blend the techniques of traditional ways into a contemporary new design. And so this is actually a small version of what that one is. I have a 4-foot tall, big cottonwood. I didn't bring it because it's massive and heavy. But this one is a smaller version, so it's a little warm in here for this, but this is mostly like a lap thing. So it's a little bit like a traditional drum, but also, you know, just to contemporaryize it. And I made an offering, a tobacco offering on the Bow River. You know, you usually put offerings down if you're trying to learn something. Like, I don't know why I'm here. Send me something. And then about 5 minutes later, I stumbled upon this. I'm like, oh, I think I could use this thing. And these are beaver bites on all sides here. So I took that as the offering that I made, and then I made instruments from it. And so this is the making of the other one. So this is elk hide. And so I went through this whole process with my little brother, Sean. He's about 11 years younger than me, and he was just barely out of high school, starting his first sort of college term. And I got him interested in local history. Now he's an archaeologist. And so he helped me with this, and this drum has 4 resonance chambers, so the ends are used as drums, but there's also 2 big middle drums there, like this. And so this is supposed to stand on like a thing right there. Then you can have multiple people or one person playing stuff. Whole process of me making it. That's this one. It's a beaver hide. And then the other one, that's where the bones come in. So these, my first instruments that I made were stringed instruments. I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I play lots of stuff. I know lots of great guitar players. I play guitar pretty good. I know lots of great guitar players, and that was very boring to me. Like, guys, can't we do more than that? And so what came from that sort of complaint was to make my own instruments. And so I wanted to make a stringed instrument. This is a moose bone that come from the same bone. I think it's like this. This is one leg, the back leg. And so it looks quite spooky. It looks like a human leg. And it sounds spooky. It's hard to play this standing up. So both of these play the same way. So you can play it acoustically like this, but you can actually plug this in to an amplifier. And if I had room and more time, I probably would have plugged it in, and you can, actually it's way better plugged in because you can do all sorts of really fun stuff with it. And you can actually use it as a microphone because it's so, it resonates so well in there. And so I hollowed out the big ends, so it would be like a guitar, a little bit more, or like a violin even, the resonant side. But I also didn't want people to put their fingers right down like a guitar. I wanted it to be sort of like a hanging instrument, sort of like I forget it's a Chinese instrument. It sort of sits upright like this, and you play like that. And that's really where the idea came from. Okay. And so obviously there's some traditional elements to it, and then I wanted to make more. And so the first year of my research, year 1, which is the book, this is like actually 5 years old information for you. This is old news. Was to build these instruments, and then year 2 was to, you see the whole process. It was really gross and stinky. But it was a really, really cool process to go through. and like a really good learning curve for me. You can see I hollowed all that stuff out. And when you make instruments that never existed before, there's no rules to them, and you don't know what they're actually going to sound like, which is the most exciting part about making instruments. And so I wasn't sure how it would sound. Wasn't sure. I knew it would look spooky and fun, but then when I play it, it sounds a little bit like what it looks like. It's a little bit spooky violin kind of, and so. Year 2, which volume 2 will probably be coming out next year, I found it a little bit more interesting of a process because this was really introductory, which is a really good place to start for myself, but also for other people. But year 2, I went into Saskatchewan, which nowadays we don't talk about it being our traditional territory, but it was a huge part of our traditional territory. And all these places that had Napi effigies and big rocks that have paintings and other wheels and circles and stuff out there. And so I was like, okay, let's go to these places and see what I could find. And there was stuff. There was all sorts of cool stuff. And so year 2, yeah, sneak peek. This is really close to the road. I think that's the road right there. It takes you down to the coulee. This is Medicine Rock. This is the big hill spring. I came back a second time to go to the actual buffalo jump. This is Dry Island Buffalo Jump. The Cree take credit for this being a buffalo jump. This is not actually a territory. This is ours. I haven't been back since, so I don't know if there's any paintings there. It's a good chance there are. Beautiful spot. If you've never been to Dry Island Buffalo Jump, do it. It's really cool. This is Medicine Hill. This is right beside where I said in COP. There's I called it a buffalo jump, but it's not a buffalo jump. It's a buffalo pound. So a jump is off, and a pound is you chase them into the side of a short cliff, and then you corral them. And buffalo, their natural inclination is to keep running. And if it looks like they can run through it, even if it might hurt them, they'll continue to run through it. So we had to trick them to not just run through a fence that we made. And it's not like we're just gonna stand in a circle around them, try to corral them. So we'd build a little fence and get them to go into a doorway. And then we put hides over top. And so it looks like it was more solid of a structure. If they wanted to, they probably could have went through our fences really, really easily. And they had to be high enough because a buffalo will jump like 6 feet. So they had to be like 8 feet or more high. And then their inclination is just to keep running. And so we took advantage of that. And so we would just take a few of them and they would just run themselves out and then we would harvest them. So one of those was right here. And you can tell that it was a significant spot because there's water there. If you want to find a buffalo jump, find water first. So here's the view. And you get some of those other spots that I mentioned earlier. This is the Beaumont Buffalo Jump spot. So, and Highway 1 is right here, which again is the original highway. So this is like a significant spot. Nose Hill is just over here. So all these spots we could see, so we'd be able to communicate from each other, right? And this is Grassy Lakes. This is another one of those spots where the only history that's mentioned is the settler history. So Grassy was a guy. He was one of the early guys in there who wasn't a cop. He climbed up this trail and took credit for making the trail. But at the top of this trail, there's a bunch of 1,000-year-old paintings up there. So obviously it's not his trail, but it doesn't mention that in any of the park stuff. It's really irritating. Doesn't mention the paintings at all. So there's 2 or 3 little lakes like this, freezing cold, beautiful, freezing cold. And up here, there's lots of rock climbers, like to use this spot. Right here, just up in there is where that painting is. There's also a cave there that's fully painted. Yeah, here's some of those paintings. I think he's holding a drum. And there's a couple other markings. And this is Majorville Cairn. Something that's really important to know when you go to places like this, it's not just the object that's important. And lots of archaeological books and photos go to museums. It's always of the thing. But the thing is actually an extension of the place. Majorville is a really important place. You can see that there's a buffalo jump really close by. You know, it overlooks the river. And it's always on the highest hill. And this is pretty much the middle of a big, massive chart. It's probably a big star chart. And so there's, from the top of the hill, you can see the next hill over. There's a little cairn on top of that. Next hill over there is a big cairn on top of that. They don't ever talk about this. They only ever talk about this. And you can see down into the valley around it, there's really strategically placed white rocks everywhere. It's a chart. And because traditionally we don't put stuff out in a permanent way. It's not our way. So if it's permanent, it means it has to be really important. And most of the times, if it's really important, it has more than one function. So something like this, and like the Okotoks erratic, this is not only a chart and a marker for people to monitor, but this is also probably a burial spot for somebody important. So that's why you'll always see offerings. That's another place where we wouldn't camp for very long. This would be a holy place. Cypress Hills, one of the greatest spots I've ever been to. It's amazing. It has loads and loads and loads and loads of history. There's a couple of big cairns on the side hills here. This is Dinosaur Provincial Park, and there's about 25 of these big rocks throughout the territory. They're always at a major trail heading. It's partly a map, but like I just said, lots of stuff that we put on that we used had multiple purposes. So you see these sort of cup-looking things. They're also for offerings. It catches blood from buffalo. But then you see these are trails and rivers. And this is right along the Bow River, I think. Red Rock Coulee, another place that people only talk about the cool rocks. They are really big and cool, but there's actually a seasonal buffalo jump there. So every beginning of the spring, this would be a spot in our seasonal round we would stop because it's a natural marker, but there's also a buffalo jump nearby, and it's also on the way to 2 significant buffalo jumps and hills. This is Medicine Hat, Samis. So where that big teepee is on top of a buffalo jump. And it's actually an active archaeological dig, but it's also a dog park. So it's a little bit of an ethically weird spot to be in. But down here I found some chert, which is how we would make our rock tools. And I found some rock tools. Like it was right out in the open. Really cool spot. Buffalo jump. And it's right along the old crossing, Highway 3. It's our old trail. Red Rock Canyon. This is one of our holy spots. This is also one of the only spots where there is actually signage about our history here. And this is also a place where we would get paint. This is like the holy red paint. So we had more than one color, like I said, but the deep, deep red paint is the one that we use for ceremony and things like that, so it's holy. This is one of the spots where I was eyeballing as I was driving by, and I think that might be a buffalo jump. This was just outside of Nanton, and I was right. I talked to a couple elders. There's a cave there with some paintings, and this big, massive buffalo jump, beautiful spot. It's called Williams Coulee, and I found out Heavy Shield, which is, if you know any Heavy Shields, their chief the guy who's named Heavy Shield, this is where he and his clan lived. One of their important spots. This is from Write It on Stone. I didn't know that there were raccoons here. Blew my mind. I tried to chase one down. There, it was really cool to see. And this one, this is in the middle of Saskatchewan. This is a big glacial erratic. Again, there's paintings all over here. It would be a natural marker. And then about 50 feet behind me, where I was taking a photo from, is Highway 1. And again, there's probably a buffalo jump pretty close by here, even though it's really flat. This stone here, it's at least 2,000 years old, carvings on it. And when they originally did an archaeological dig, there's actually paintings on the side of it too. So you go down 5 or 6 feet, there's paintings on it. Really cool, significant spot. It's just outside of Swift Current. It's like the town's right there. And this is the Great Sand Hills. This is where another holy place, another place you don't really stay. Death is really taboo in our culture. We don't actually talk about it openly very much. And there are certain protocols with who can attend certain things, certain funerals and stuff like that. So a place like this isn't a place where you're acting a fool. This is a place that you would revere and you would treat with the utmost respect, and a place you don't sleep at. And so at the Great Sand Hills, I heard a story that if you stay there overnight, there's a big chance that somebody will come and try to talk to you at your tent, at your campsite, and convince you to come back to their camp and eat food with them. And that's really a ghost trying to catch you and bring you back to the spirit world. So that's why part of the reason why we don't camp there. Grassland National Park. It's on the border of Montana. Really, really significant traditional spot. It's where Crazy Horse came north when he was being chased by the government after killing Custer. And we didn't participate in the war. Well, I've been told that we did have a few people there, but officially we didn't participate in the war. But we did bring him over the border into our territory, and this is where he stayed. This is where the big drum that you see at powwows, that's where we got that drum. We didn't use that drum before. We mostly just used hand drums. Also, the big knife, and I've been told this is also the spot where we got the big headdress. So normally Blackfoot headdresses are stand-up ones or different headdresses. That's the one where you see the sort of standard plains one. That's where we got it. This is a really significant spot. And there's wild buffalo here, and this is a cairn. There's markings like this all over the place there. It's beautiful. And then year 3, this is the Viking ribstones. So there's 2, these are actually meteors. Meteors are very important to us fallen stars. We include them on our painted teepees a lot. And so there's 2 of these here. This is actually a whole cairn. And again, it's on the highest hill, nearby a really significant spot. There's a big lake. The biggest lake in the region is just down the hill from there.